So there you go. The day is March 22nd. My son is now officially 1 day older than 53. And he's celebrating in Vegas with friends where they can follow the Final Four and have all their basketball fun. Um, and I just returned yesterday from, actually, that implies I traveled. I didn't. It was a virtual event. And yesterday I was the MC for the Sales 3.0 meeting of Selling Power magazine, which is headed up by Gerhard Schwantner. Do you
Yes.
know Gerhard, Robin?
I don't know him personally. I know who he is. I like him a lot.
Well, Tony Alessandra and I met Gerhard years ago when he was publishing Selling Power as a big tabloid, like a newspaper,
Yeah.
big fold out thing. And we had articles placed in it, and we did a couple of ads, and it was fun. And Tony and I were in DC for a Meeting World convention where he was the opener and I was the closer. And while we were there, we had dinner with Gerhard. And boy, that was, I mean, we're talking 1980s,
Wow.
80s.
Wow.
Whoa. And Gerhard, of course, evolved into a regular published standards type magazine, Selling Power, and then went from that to currently it's mostly digital. But Gerhard Schwantner puts on every year a series of meetings, and he calls these meetings Sales 3.0. And so Selling Power magazine promotes to all of their subscribers worldwide attendance in these programs. And the programs always have sponsors. And so there are multiple providers of sales software and services for mostly enterprise level outfits, like you're selling to, I don't know, Amazon Corporation, big sales.
Yeah.
It's software as a service, that kind of thing. And so Gerhard brings in all these presenters, and he asked me recently, would you be the MC, the host, on-air host for our second day of Sales 3.0? And 643 people signed up from.
I was one of those last year.
Were you? Good.
Yeah.
And from 48 different countries, which was pretty impressive. And at any given time, we had anywhere from 150 to 200 and something who were actually online attending it. And the lineup was, after Gerhard and I opened the program, Brian Dietmeyer hit your 2024 number with on-demand deal coaching. And he talked about how that AI that they had built was sitting right there in your laptop waiting for you to get to the next stage of a sales dialogue and be able to hit enter, and boom, it populates with the solutions that you're seeking, the answers that need to be, and the questions that need to be asked. Pretty cool. And then the next was Bill McDermott, the president and CEO of ServiceNow, which is a huge outfit, worldwide outfit, doing many, many, many millions. And one of the things he said was, business is the greatest catalyst for hope in society. And I think that's a pretty accurate statement, because business, thinking conceptually, business is how a group of people, a society, organize to solve their problems and create solutions. Because, go back to, let's say, the settlers in Plymouth Rock. They came over on the ship. Hi, Jay. Hi, Lisa. They came over on the ship and they landed in the wilderness, and they had nothing except what they had brought or what they could scavenge. And there were dangerous natives out there, and they didn't know how to deal with that yet. And as soon as they got their settlement created, they started realizing the best way to grow and sustain this was not to force everybody to work in the collective farms, like you would be in old school Russia, but rather for people to specialize. And since Robin's good as an iron worker, he would make weapons and tools, and Jay's good at agriculture and Lisa's good at fabrics, so you start creating a society with businesses. And the businesses, of course, at first were all barter, but then it evolved. So Bill was right. Business is the greatest catalyst for hope because it's the way society solves its problems. And I'm going to just run through the rest of the daily agenda to give you a sense of what I was newly refreshed with yesterday. Abe Awasti is the sales transformation offering leader. What a name. Sales transformation offering leader for Deloitte Digital. And let's see if I got a quote from him. Not that I can see quickly, but the next one was strategies for effective sales transformation. Anthony Anarino, business-to-business sales coach, B2B sales coach and consultancy. And he had some pretty profound things to share. And he was talking about sales generations. And he said 60 years ago, you had Thomas Watson and what was his name? John Patterson of later National Cash Register, NCR. They were the first to write actual manuals on sales training that really got adopted widely. And Patterson was kind of the father of modern day selling up until a few years ago. And he was the one that came up with the sales cycle, identifying the steps in it, prospecting and all that, and needs analysis and presentation and close and so forth. And Tony Anarino was saying, if you're still selling by that model, it's wake up time, because that model's based on people going out, identifying the needs of people who don't know their needs, leading them through a thought process and guiding them to a product that they don't know anything about. Well, today's buyer's already done his or her research. They've already found out about you and however you present yourself in the world digitally, and they've compared you to other people, and they've even done their own little needs analysis. So what you've got to do is help them unlearn what they got wrong and help them discover the reasons for taking action on what they got right and add your new information and insights into it. And he said, and if you're presenting on your own without the assistance of AI or something, then shame on you for showing up with half your weapons when you're fighting an army that's got all its weapons, right? So not that we should characterize selling as battle.
Is he referencing that as research with AI, or he actually using that in his in the presentation of some sort?
Both of those. What he's saying is you got to rethink from the start. First off, the role of a seller is no longer persuader, and that's something I've been saying for years. It needs to be partner in problem solving. And so he was talking about how to be a guide for your buyer to guide them to a good buying decision. And then we talked about the various transition points in there, trust being a major factor in all that.
Yeah.
And then Jim Cathcart, the famous author of Relationship Selling. Yeah.
I don't know him.
Well, you'll know of him because, this guy's going to be big. He talked about managing human connections as sales assets, which is the theme, evidently, of his new book coming out in April called Relationship Selling, Managing Human Connections as Sales Assets, co-authored with Victor Antonio, who's an engineer that wrote the book that kind of preceded AI called Sales Ex Machina. And so I did my presentation, and then we had a fireside chat between Gerhard Schwantner of Selling Power and Seth Mars, the research director of Forrester, which is a company that does a lot of sales coaching and innovation. And they were just basically talking about leveraging sales technology to bring more humanity to selling. not to
Wow.
make it more technically accurate, but to make it more real, more genuine, more trustable, and to feel more like human contact. Yeah, I agree, Robin. Bravo. Then Bryn Tillman, who's pretty cool, a woman that I've known for a while. She's the CEO and LinkedIn whisperer of Social Sales Link, LinkedIn Whisperer. That's pretty cool.
That is
Bryn
good.
talked about prospecting by interview. And her idea was this. She said, find out, get your top 100, your golden prospects, and identify the ones you want most to work with. And then look at your LinkedIn connections and such. You can look beyond LinkedIn, but look at the ones that are first level connections with you. So you know them, they know you, you realize each other exists, and you've already agreed to communicate occasionally. Okay. First level. Now, second level is where you know Lisa Marie, and Lisa Marie knows Christina Richter, and you want to meet Christina Richter. Hi, Christina. And so you get Lisa to facilitate an introduction. That's second level connections in LinkedIn. So what Bryn Tillman was saying, go to your first level connections in LinkedIn and look at your golden list of the people that you absolutely want to do business with and connect with them through interviews. She said, do not, under any circumstances, market in any way in the connection you make seeking an interview. And here was her recommendation, and she's done this with great success over an extended period of time, and she teaches it. You go to your first level connection with a message that says, Jay, I'm writing an ebook on the subject of blank that'll be published in, let's say, June. And for this book, I need to talk with people in your particular field. You're the director of HR, you're the owner of a worldwide whatever, and you identify their field narrowly enough that they feel like it's really talking about them, not just, you're an executive. I'm interviewing executives, too broad, way too broad. So be as specific and narrow as you can about that, and say, I wonder if you'd be open to scheduling a short conversation so that I could get your insights for the upcoming ebook. And she said, do not include a link. She said, that's going to kick you to spam. So she said, make this a direct personal request and say, I would like to schedule a chat with you and, gain some of your insights that I might be able to quote in this upcoming ebook, and tell what the ebook's title is. It's an ebook on marketing in a dark economy to buyers who are riding bicycles for the rest of the morning. Just whatever you want to make it about, and actually do an ebook, by the way. This is not a scam. So you send that and you see if you get a response. And she said, I've been getting, when I do that, responses as high as, I think it was 4 times the responses I was getting when I sent a more generic one with a link. She said, without the link and keeping it focused, I'm like 400% more responses. And she said, and if I do the requests by LinkedIn video, very short LinkedIn video, 90% responses.
Wow.
That's great.
That's
great.
unheard of. I mean, mind-boggling, unheard of, right? And she says, then when you do the interview, don't turn it into a secret sales call. Just do the interview. And then put your ebook together and send them a draft of it, or send them the finished copy of it. But it can be a really simple, it doesn't have to be an ebook. It could be, I'm doing a white paper on, or I'm doing a PDF report on the subject of client loyalty or quality comparisons in business or the use of novelties in promotional marketing and, whatever it happens to be, but produce your paper and send them a copy of it, but get their mailing address and send them a hard copy of it printed out in a nice presentation format so that you can send that to them and then follow up. And that's where you do your discovery call and so forth. Now, the reason for making this so non-salesy at first is that many of these will convert to salesy anyway. Because you'll get into the sales call, into the conversation, and they will say, hey, are we done with that? Do you guys do anything with da 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 da? Well, yes, as a matter of fact, but I really didn't call with the intention of selling you anything today. I'd be happy to have that conversation. Are you okay with doing it now, or would you like to rebook? No, then go ahead, right? So there you go.
Michelle we talked about on my podcast, starting to do the same thing, reaching out to the people that I wanted to have a connect with for speaking and training in there, and ask them to be a guest on a podcast, and have a 7 or 8, 10 before we launch, but not promotional at all, not salesy, but really information driven for your niche market. Same principle, and I think that could work as well.
Yeah. And by the way, Jeff Crilly, who does the
great guy.
Yeah, out of Dallas. I forgot. I was trying to think of the name of his news feed that I read each day. I read it so often I forget the name of it. But anyway, Jeff owns a studio, or at least has the lease of a beautiful studio in Dallas, where I did that event with Michael Butler a couple of years ago. He also owns a studio in Austin that's right across the street from the state capitol with a beautiful view of it. And he was saying to me, if you've got a podcast, invite people to be on your podcast and interview them like I just talked from Ren Tillman's idea, and then have a dinner with them, or, let's go to cocktails after or something, but have a private get together with them after the interview.
Yeah, great.
And during that interview, do a needs analysis and then publish that broadcast and send it to them. And it spins so much better when you do it that way, prospecting by interview rather than by sales call. All right. Yeah. The next one was referrals without asking. And it was John Ruhlin, Ruhlin. He's the co-founder of a company called Giftology Group. Giftology. It builds on this idea. Try giving yourself away. This is a book written by a man named David Dunn in long ago, 1947, and republished in 1970 with Prentice Hall, and that's where I got this copy. And it's to every man and woman who's seeking greater happiness in these troubled times. Well, he wouldn't have to revise a word, but this is a book about how he formed the habit of what he called giving himself away. He looked for little ways every day to do something nice for somebody else, and it ended up generating not only great happiness, but great wealth for him in the process. And I used to buy these by the box and give them away in my live training. And I would do a little vignette on that if I was doing a multiple day training program. So Giftology is now a book of a very similar nature. And John Ruhlin was describing how he was inspired by a colleague or a mentor to give gifts to people without any implication of business coming from it. When you see an opportunity, give. Okay. So Lisa or Jay, if you were thinking of imprinted, company imprint gifts, he says, that's not a gift. That's a promotion. He said, so I'm
Jim, can
talking
you,
about,
Jim, 1 second? Can you hold the cover of that book up because I'm trying to order it on Amazon? And
okay,
there are a lot of different versions of it.
try giving yourself away. I'll give you the ISBN number right here,
Is that hardback or paperback?
paper. And
Okay.
the ISBN
Okay.
number is 0-13-932-442-9. And it may be out of print, but it was a division of Prentice Hall that was doing this back in 1970. Man, 1970, some serious mileage ago.
There is two different industries. There's a gift industry and a promotional industry. And the promotional industry does those kinds of things that you stamp your name on for promotional.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
And they hold some pretty amazing conventions.
They sure do. They
Yeah.
really do.
What
And
is-
give
what
free
is-
stuff away.
Yeah, they do. You come home with a bag full of things, and even the bag is a collectible. I spoke at a couple of their conventions, one in Chicago and another one in some other major city like that years ago. But getting back to how John approaches this, John Ruland says, when I see an opportunity to give something, I go overboard compared to what most people think is reasonable. He said, I gave one gift that cost me $7,000. He said, and I didn't ask for anything. And the guy came to me afterwards and says, never in my life will I ever again consider anyone but you as my supplier. He said, I don't care what they come up with. I'm so blown away with this. And it was so personal to me that I'm done thinking beyond you. I trust you. Here are the keys to my kingdom. Here are my grandkids. Just, take good care of them.
Wow.
But he said, sometimes I can give a gift that may cost me $20 and it still has the same effect because I give with the concept of emotional value in mind. So I'm listening and watching and trying to learn as much about this person as I can to know what they would treasure. And then I get creative about how to give it. And so I recommend you get a copy of, and it's free, by the way. You can go to Giftology, Giftology, all one word, getgiftology.com and download a free copy of his book.
Hey, I got a story I want to tell you about a mutual friend of ours.
Okay.
And it's relevant. It's about Don Hudson.
Mhm.
So, many years ago, I worked with him and helped him. I learned a lot from him too, just by watching him try to get new customers in the city of Memphis. And there was one customer he really wanted. He owned 5 car dealership lots, very wealthy man. And he was at a St. Jude function. He was one of the sponsors. And I just walked up to him and introduced myself to him. And we had a nice little chat. And I said, I'm going to stop by one of your locations sometime. He said, please do. So I did. And when I went in, he had 2 dogs. So, of course, we immediately connected.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, he wasn't taking my phone calls or nothing anymore. So I sell gifts and home decor and specialty items on the side. I didn't tell Don, and I sent him 10, like probably round, as big as my iPad, round, full of candies and pecans. And I put a big note on it with a nut on top of it, and it said, candies and pecans. I'm going nuts trying to reach out to you. Call me. And he called me. And he set up an appointment. And I had to go fess up to Don. He's like, wait, because it had gone dry for 3 or 4 months. And then here all of a sudden I'm banging on his door. Hey, we got an appointment. And he's like, how'd you do that? And I'm standing there thinking, do I tell him or do I not? Do I tell him or do I not? And I'm standing there and he asked me again. And finally I told him, and it was like dead silence because, he's of the old school and just so, I just thought, well, he might not like that or my humor or whatever. And he looked at me and he said, I like that. But, it took him a minute, it took him a minute. But yeah, I was just trying to combine the two and a tin of candy and nuts and pecans and going nuts trying to reach out to you. So
You know that's a great story. You know who Craig Duswalt is?
that name sounds familiar.
Yeah, he uses Rockstar as part of his branding as well. Well, Craig was presenting in Dallas at Jeff Crilley's studios when I was there for Michael Butler, and Craig said I had a client I couldn't get through to, and I thought, I got to get bold about this. So I had delivered to his offices the door of a Volkswagen. I went to a junkyard, bought a door from a Volkswagen, and had it shipped to this guy's office and delivered. And a letter on the window saying, I'm having a heck of a time opening the door. Get in to see you. I feel like there's a lot of opportunity we're missing here. And sure enough, of course, that guy will never forget it and probably tells his friends that story every week. I would, right?
Yeah.
That's pretty old stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
I know when you and I started working together, I got so into your system and your process that I think I tripped myself up because I was more worried about the process and doing each of the steps as opposed to just going out there and being Lisa and connecting with people, because so many people, especially on the St. Jude and Alsac side, say, you're such a great connector. You've introduced us to Jim Cathcart, who's going to speak at our next gen, So I just had to stop and say, hey, I'm getting all these compliments. Let me stop getting all these certifications and doing all these classes and reading all these books. While all that's good and I feel like it helped me, it helped me more just to stop and say, just do what you do best.
That's right. Well, all the processes are driven by the purpose. And if there's no purpose behind the process, it's just bureaucracy, and bureaucracy is where the process becomes more important than anything else and loses all reason for existence. And just go call a government agency if you need a recent example, right?
But for me, the process has helped keep me organized.
Yeah, but life requires processes.
Yeah.
You're saying that the process has to have a purpose.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just meaningless behavior. Jay.
I'm trying to remember the quote you said, an inability to manage, it starts with an inability to manage yourself. Well, how does that go?
It's not a hard quote that I use often. I just said it in one of our conversations. But if you can't manage well, this may be it. When I was speaking for the Toastmasters Golden Gavel Award event, I said, if you can't lead you, please don't lead me. Because everything starts with us being able to get ourselves to do what needs to be done, whether we feel like it or not, do it when it needs to be done and do it well.
I think there was another quote you said at some point that, because I was reading it, all problems with managing others start with an inability to manage yourself, something along those lines.
That's pretty accurate, I think, but that's not a quote from me. That's an idea from me.
An idea, yeah. I was taking the idea, and I was now whenever I have frustrations with managing my team, or things in life aren't going the way I want them to, because normally things go pretty smooth. I don't go outside and go, oh, it's them, or this is happening, or it's the economy. I go, what about my own life am I not managing correctly? Where am I having frustrations in myself? Sometimes it might be as simple as, you know what, I've been eating a little bit too much coconut ice cream at night, and I'm succumbing to that desire and that, like, I'm not in control, and simply put that discipline in on myself allows me to feel more control of those around me, and things start going smoother. It's not just a psychological thing. Things start going more smoothly in the outside environment when I start controlling myself.
Yeah. And yeah, good analogy, because the more we take charge of any part of our life, the more we'll be able to roll that over and be in charge of the other parts of our life. Christina.
So I was really struggling in my early 20s. I spent the first 10 years of my sales career in staffing, talent acquisition, talent management.
Yep.
And my contact was, pretty high in some larger organizations. And I remember this whole thing, and Lisa's story reminds me of, I was trying to get into Northrop Grumman, and the highest decision maker there was just absolutely a blocker, not interested. I'm this little 20-something-year-old wearing glasses that have a, see-through glass to try to look more intelligent or older by wearing glasses.
Like me with my
I
rosy cheeks back then. Yep.
right. It's not good when we look too young, right? When we're in sales. But I started doing, and I teach now all my coaching clients that are in sales, the exact concept of what you guys are talking about around what I call it as a target campaign, where the touches go over the course of, let's say, a 12-week period, but they change. They could be email, they could be phone call. There's something that gets mailed. They're creative. They're not about their value, driven around, you're managing people. Here's an incredible Forbes article. Here's the pieces that I thought would stand out to you. But I remember Northrop Grumman specifically because I couldn't get any traction. And so there were a couple things I did that you guys just mentioned. So I didn't mail a Volkswagen door. I bought baby booties. I bought little baby booties, and I would send just trying to get my foot in the door. With this guy, I knew he was a huge basketball fan. So I had delivered a basketball, and I just said, I just want to get in the game with you. And then my best one was a hula hoop, which is impossible to wrap and ship, by the way.
Exactly.
You don't have professionals do that. I would jump through hoops to have a 15-minute conversation to share why what you're doing now may not be serving you, right? That kind of and I got into him, and he was my largest account for like 3 years running, President's Club, with this guy.
I love that.
That's great.
Yeah, that makes me laugh. And it would certainly work on me. Absolutely would work on me. Years ago, I had a guy working for me named Bob, and he was my sales rep, and he would come into my office and say, "Hey, I just made a sale." And I said, "Well, great. What are the dates? And did they sign the document? Whatever." And he would say, no, they just, I got a verbal. "Oh, well, come back when we can celebrate, when you confirm it." He said, "Okay, but we got this, and he would get so excited about the sale. And then I would say, "So how much is it for?" And he'd say, this was back in the 1980s, $8,000. Whoa, $8,000. And then it turns out that's 8,000 minus a bureau, which is 25%, minus travel was included in the 8, and products were included in the 8. So it's like a $4,300 sale. And I said, "Bob, net and gross, dude, celebrate the net." Yeah, but $8,000 sale. No, is it kind of like anyway. So I went on the road, and I was traveling a lot, like 120 talks a year. And so every day I was on the phone with the office talking to Bob and the other staff, and I had, I don't know, 6 or 7 cities in a row. So I wasn't going to be coming home for a while. So the first city I stopped at, I sent Bob a big fishing net, a scoop net like you'd use when you're out catching bass, not the handle and everything, but just the net part. And I sent it to him and said, "Having a great time in Des Moines. See you soon." And okay. And then the next day in another city, I sent him a scoop net for a fishing tank, the little wire handle and all that, and it's a similar note. And then the next day I sent him some other kind, a hair net. And then the next day I sent him a picture of the most disgusting person you can imagine. And then I called him and he said, "What in the world is this about?" And I said, "Well, what did you receive?" He said, "I got a bunch of nets and then a picture of an ugly person." I said, "So you got what, 3 nets and then you got a picture that's gross?" And he said, "Yeah." He didn't get it.
Oh, that's
He
good.
didn't get it. I said, "Get the picture." He said, "Okay, I'll be right back." He comes back to the phone, got the picture. I said, "Isn't that gross?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "So is the amount that you've been quoting me when you make a sale." And never after that was it unclear to him the difference between net and gross.
That's awesome. That
Yeah.
is awesome. Wow. I got a text this morning from someone that I didn't recognize the name from, but I went to open up the text and up popped one of my DVDs, Jim, from way back in the day. I spoke up in Seattle for NSA chapter. It's not that one. It's not that one. This one was about
But folks,
doing
I
a.
want you to notice who that is. That is Robin Kreisman.
Way back in the day. But this was one I did on how to make a rock star video, a
Yeah.
speaker video.
Yeah.
And he was asking about that. And we started talking about some things, but that caught my attention. So when I saw that, I called him immediately, left the number. And I asked him, I said, "How old are you, Alex?" And I'm thinking he's close to, our age maybe, because that was a long time ago. He says 33. I'm like, well, how old were you when you went to that NSA meeting? Because I was 19 and I had just gotten out of college and I'm ready to be a speaker. So I was at the NSA event in Seattle. How cool is that? But yeah, he brought that up and I immediately called him.
Yeah.
He knew who you were, by the way.
By the way, I got an email the other day that broke through the noise. It was from a guy I'd never heard of in my life. And he said, "Hey, is this you in this photograph in Bangkok?" And he sent me a photograph. And it didn't look like me, even to me, So I replied, I said, "No, not me." And he said, "Would you be interested in being interviewed on a podcast?" And I said, "Sure, what the heck, you got through the noise, so good for you, right? Man. So the
Was
end
it
of this,
was it McConaughey? Was it a picture of McConaughey?
yeah. Thank you for the compliment. The end of the program is for Sales 3.0 was how sales growth drives sales transformation. And this was a guy named Dave Cichelli. And Dave, his company's called the Alexander Group. And he was talking about growth stages in a company, startup. And then I've forgotten what he named the next phase, like the networking phase. And then the next stage it was one where you pretty much refined and hit a peak, and then you go down. And the last stage was reinvention or something like that. And optimization, I think, was what he was calling it, the last stage. And he said, your strategies for growing sales in the first stage are anything. Everybody's selling 24 hours a day. Anything's worth trying. Who do we listen to? Anybody who makes a sound, right? What ideas are we using? Every idea. And so it's just throwing it at the wall, hoping stuff sticks. And then some of it does. And so then you reach second stage and you have to start refining it so that since this is working, we want to make sure that's the one we use all the time. So you need a process, you need policies and systems, you need organization and structure, you need training, you need software, you need so forth. And then he said the next stage, then you're introducing new products, you're trying to grow a new market to capitalize on the markets that are paying off best and all that. And then you get to this other one, you got to rethink your assumptions and find your optimum best audience and then cultivate that so it becomes a cash cow for perpetuity, right? And I thought that was pretty well articulated. So those were just a few of the insights that I got from yesterday's program, and I thought I'd pass those along for the good of the order here. Now, let me throw it to you for questions or ideas that you want to focus on today. What do you need from us, and how can we help the most? And that's open to you.
I've got a question, a thought. I came across a video yesterday of a guy, a sales trainer, and I got the sales program I'm about to launch in the Everyday Rockstar as well. But he talked about if you're wanting to make an impression on a possible client, we're talking about the same similar situation you just went through earlier. He said, if you do your research on the company and the person that you're talking to, wanting to talk to, that can make the decision, and you actually go to the location and you build a binder that you have on the insert, that you put in a document that's got their logo on there, its color, it's got a picture of their building, whatever it might be, and you have an assessment of their current situation and what their needs are, and you present that to them, and you have your one sheet or a resume or whatever you're trying to get a job, but this was for a speaking gig, would be your one sheet or something on your video. And you walk in there and you just cold call him by showing up at a public situation like car dealerships or something. You wanted to do a sales training. That's what he was using as a reference. That's going to get somebody's attention pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And if you can show the ROI that you can bring based on their default, their areas where they have deficiencies, then it could be a no-brainer that they would at least give you a shot to come in and do a training process. What are your thoughts about that?
I think that, well, at first it's proven to be a very good idea by not just, that source, but many sources. And I've done things similar to that in my own past that have paid off very well. The thing that it does is, since it's customized going in, it breaks down the trust barrier, and they say, oh, well, you actually do get who we are, and then, of course, naturally,
I thought the same.
that's going to work. And you can do that digitally with a video. You can,
Sure.
like, I went to in Thousand Oaks, California, one Sunday. It was time for us to buy a new car. We were coming off lease, and so it was a Sunday, which is not a typical business day for most people. And I was still in a suit from church or something earlier in the day, and so I decided to just go to the auto mall. The auto mall is 1 mile square in Thousand Oaks, and it's filled with every brand you can imagine.
Wow.
And so I started wandering around. I began at the BMW dealer, Rusnak, and they had a brand new dealership they had spent millions of dollars on. And I was on the lot looking around, doing the windows and reading the pricing sheet, and no salespeople. I don't remember if the weather was harsh or not. I doubt it. So I'm just strolling around for 15 minutes looking at cars. And so I go into the showroom, and there's like maybe 3 salespeople that I could see and some other clerical types. And 2 of the salespeople were talking to each other, and the other was on the phone or on computer. And so I walked up to the 2 and I said, excuse me. And they said, yeah. I said, where's your restroom? They said, right over there. I said, thanks. So I went to the restroom and I came back out and I roamed around the showroom floor. I sat in the cars and I left. Nobody interacted with me.
Mm.
All right. Then I went to the Infinity dealer and I did the same thing. And a guy came up and he said, hey, you thinking about an Infinity? I said, well, I like them, and we talked about a couple of models. He said, well, if I can ever be helpful to you, here's my card. And he walked away. So I went to another dealer and another dealer. And then finally I went over to either Honda or Hyundai and bought a car on the spot that day. Done deal, And then I went and made a video a few days later. And I said, I'm standing at the Thousand Oaks Auto Mall, and I talked about all the dealerships and all that, and I told that story, and then I sent it to the various dealers.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's
And I
awesome.
said, if you think your people need a wake-up call and I can help, let me know. This is my specialty, and so forth. And so I got some leads out of that. But the more personal it becomes, the more powerful it becomes. Yeah. By the way, quick update. The Expert Summit, I've renamed it to be a little bit more appealing to the people like many of us are. I've called it the Master Speakers and Experts Summit.
Hmm.
And that kind of says it. I'm not interested in someone that's not yet a speaker or a beginning speaker and they don't, they ought to be at a local chapter meeting of NSA instead of at my meeting asking those questions like, should I have a brochure? Or what's a speakers bureau and things like that. There are
Wait, Jim, I've asked both those questions.
no, not yeah, but then not in that context. Thank you. You're a master speaker.
Yes.
But but anyway, Master Speakers and Expert Summit, and it's come together nicely. Dave Kaufman of EdgeCon, who Lisa works with and introduced me to, he's the one who hired me for Nashville and Key West. And I spoke at both of those. And from Key West, Kevin Davis, who's part of this group, signed up. And last night, I got a call from Dave and he said, I want to be at the summit. And he signed up and he said, I want to apply for the CPE. I want to be a certified professional expert. So he's applying for that. And I got news, as you probably saw, Les Brown said, I'd love to be a CPE. So Les will be included. He's kind of getting a grandfathered in treatment. And others, any person that wants to apply for CPE, they can apply for it. They pay $250. They do a letter that describes how they qualify for those 6 criteria. And then they, if they're approved, then they pay $750, which is the remainder. It's $1,000 for the CPE. They pay the $750 remainder, and they can come to the awards banquet in La Jolla, dinner, and receive it there. And we'll video record it, and they can use that for press release. Or if they can't come, then we schedule a video call for me and them. And I present it to them on video, and they can use that for their press release and promotion. And I ship the certificate and the medallion to them. And Christina Richter is CPE number 9 coming up. So in La Jolla, she's going to be joining the ranks with Les Brown, Brian Tracy, and Nito Kubain, and Tony Alessandra, and Patricia Fripp, and Don Hudson, and the others. Whoo-hoo. There. Yeah. Christina, your screen is frozen in mid clap. Now it's loosened up. There you go. You had a question or had your hand up?
No, I was just really excited.
Thank you. And I love that. I've confirmed the restaurant. We're going to have the whole restaurant just to ourselves. It's a small one, a bistro kind of a place. And so the attendance at that dinner will only be like, probably 20, 25 people. If we get many more than that, like 35, then we may have the dining indoor and outdoor and then come together indoor for the presentation portion of it. I'm working out all these solutions, what ifs in my head every day, and got the caterer confirmed for the opening evening. We're going to have a street tacos, kind of a buffet for Cinco de Mayo, and Cathcarts are coming with guitars. So there will be 3 Cathcart males who are accomplished guitarists and singers, and we're going to be doing a jam and letting everybody get involved. And then I've got more and more of the faculty level experts who are dropping in and going to be with us for a little while to add to the discussion. So that's going to be quite the experience. And that's the update on that one. So coming back to you, we've got another like 11 minutes left on our little egg timer here. What is pressing for you that we could help you with? I've met, by the way, with Kenneth Remsen, who's the author of this book, Get Wallet Wise. That's the guy. He's part of our Going Pro group. And with Kevin Davis, who was actually here in town in Austin. We went to dinner together and had local barbecue, Terry Black's, Robin, and it was awesome. And so I've had some quality time with each of them. Christina and I met privately the other day and had a really good session. And so I just want you to know I'm here for all of you, and I want to make these sessions as valuable to you as we possibly can. So I'm silent for the moment while you're thinking, what can I ask? What do I need help with?
You know, Jim, last couple of days I've been feeling under the weather, and I thought I just need to come to this meeting today and get some positive energy. So you've already filled my need.
Outstanding. Thank you for that. I appreciate it, Jay. How many people do you have on your team that you would consider your immediate team?
The leadership team is probably 5.
And how many overall?
Well, we have virtual assistants that we hire in different countries that are part of the team, but some of them are full-time, some of them are part-time, probably like 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Very good.
And before you sign off, Jim, I want to jump on your Amazon listings for your book. I want to just show you a couple of things that might be helpful.
Oh,
So
please.
you and I could do that together.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. And what I'll do is I'll stop the recording and then we'll just refresh and we can do that. Cool.
Hey, Jay, by the way, nice to meet you. I've missed the last 2 weeks, but I hadn't gotten to meet you yet, but Jim's told me a lot about you. Good to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, Robin. I went to your website while we were talking to see who you are. Very impressed. Very impressed.
Thank you. Thank you.
Super good. Lisa, what can we help you with?
I am good. I am extremely busy right now in both of my businesses. I've got a lot of irons in the fire and presentations that I'm working on. So all is good right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Christina?
I'm just wanted to say I'm going to miss y'all next call. I'll be, I get to work in Buenos Aires in this following week. So I'm pretty excited. It's a client I worked with, software client that I worked with like maybe 10 years ago. So, but I'm excited. I'm going to get a couple little breaks for myself to go do a couple things that I really like there. So I'm
Wow.
excited. Hopefully I won't come back exhausted and spending all the money that I made while I was there. That's my hope.
Christina, what do you do with your clients there? What kind of, are you a life coaching type of thing?
So in this case, I'm doing a leadership development half-day seminar that I do. So yeah, it'll be good. It'll be really good. So but to answer your question, great question. So it could be a speaking engagement. It could be a training workshop. It could be leadership development, could be group coaching. You know, those are the things those are the areas where I play.
Gotcha.
Really?
Okay, cool.
So
Have fun.
You'll be in the Big Apple. BA.
BA, Big Apple. Okay, haven't heard that.
Well, it's, the song from what's this? It's
Evita?
yeah, Evita. I was trying to think what's her name. I'm picturing Madonna acting that, you know, and
It's Evita Perón.
yeah, Evita Perón, right. And Evita is the name of the play. Don't Cry for Me, Argentina. You know, and
Yeah.
dude, I want to be in BA, Big Apple, Buenos Aires. And
Okay.
that's
Ah.
I need to listen to the word. I'm going to her gravesite. I mean, I always go to the cemetery there that I love Recoleta Cemetery. So I'll see. It's beautiful. Her, I crypt. I don't know what they call it, something like that. It's all,
Yeah.
they fly in all the marble. I love cemeteries.
Mausoleum, yeah, the
Yeah,
memorial.
mausoleum.
Yep.
I'm gonna see. Yeah.
Well, get a copy of the soundtrack for
the
Evita
song.
and play
Okay.
while you're on the plane.
Okay, I'll do it.
Put you in the mood. Totally
I'll
will.
do it.
Antonio Banderas was her narrator and semi-leading man for that. Yeah, that was a cool play. Well, I'm gonna wrap it here and let any of you who want to reach out and send me a request for a topic to dig into or a resource you need or whatever, please do. Definitely go to our Facebook page and read the latest updates, and anything you need in the files that you haven't downloaded in the past may be sitting there ready for you. And that's what we're here for. Okay.
By the way, I'll be gone the next 2 weeks as well. I've got bookings for those 2 afternoons, so I won't join you for the next 2 weeks. My bad.
Okay. Well, I, on the other hand, will be joining us. So
That's all that matters.
for the next 2 weeks, yep, I'm good to go. I will be here. Great. Thank you, folks, and I'll see you later. And Jay, I'll meet you in just a minute. We may
Okay.
need to log off and log back on, but that's easy.
Okay.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Thanks,
Bye,
guys.
Robin.
Bye.
Bye, Christina.
good
Bye,
Okay,
Lisa
bye,
Marie.
Lisa. Bye, Christina. Have a great trip.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Hey,
you.
Jimbo.